Greetings and salutations, YouTubeville. This is Anna, aka Boondoggle Bliss, and I am serving an entirely different meal today. I might sound high-handed, preachy, motherly, bossy, overbearing, pushy, commanding, and all those things, but I want you to remember I am coming from a very nurturing place, like a mother feeding a baby. No, not like that. Never mind. Scratch that. Not like that. Do not have any visuals. It's coming from a place of nurture, of a place of empowerment, wanting to empower those around me to bring out the best in them. I want you all to be the best freaking resellers out there because I enjoy you. I like making videos for you, and that's where I want you to remember that I'm making this video with that in mind for growth, development. I want to challenge you. I want to provide relief. I want to provide support. I want to provide food for thought. And if any of you get a little nugget out of this little video, then I've done my job. So what's the topic? Well, you probably already saw the first page and you saw the title, but we are going to be talking about time management in reselling. But it's not just for reselling, it's for anything. Whether you're an entrepreneur, a domestic engineer juggling a million and one things and doing a little bit of reselling on the side, whether you have a full-time job, another job, and doing some reselling, whatever you're doing, however you might apply this, I think you're gonna enjoy it. I think you are. Because if you're anything like me, I think you'll like it. I hope so. We'll see. All right. Anyway, before we get started on the topic at hand, I have a little prerequisite. And it's a little prerequisite talk about two things that will put us on a level playing field. So when we start the conversation on time management, we're going to be at the same place at the same time going forward. And this conversation has to happen before we do that. Are you ready? Are you ready? Get, set, go! Okay. So this may be a little elementary, so I apologize for those that might be rolling their eyes at this right now. But I feel in order for me to make an effective video on this topic, I got to cover this information. So, accountability. Accountability has been a very popular topic in business ever since Enron and all the other big scandals. All the major big companies that are consulting companies that support all the Fortune 100, Fortune 500 companies came out with trainings and simulations. And chances are if you worked for a big company, you've gone through some variation of this training already. You've probably seen this before. Now, if you Google ladder of accountability, you'll see like hundreds, probably thousands of different pictures. So I'm going to show you a few and I'm going to talk about it. The one down here is my favorite. If ever any one of my employees watches this video, they'll look at it and they'll be like, oh my God, here she goes again. Because I've used this specific visual for at least 10 years. And as you look at it, think of this as your decision line. I don't think there's an actual definition for it, but in your mind, think of it as a decision line. And anything above the decision line going up is that of an accountable individual, and those are the accountable decisions. Then anything below the line are that of a unaccountable individual, and they're not accountable decisions. And if you live in this space, chances are you have a lot of stress, you have anxiety, you blame others a lot, you focus on others rather than yourself, you deflect, you're in denial, you're in a wait and hope situation, and you wait things to happen rather than you making things happen. So whereas if you're here on top, you're in control of your environment and your situations, and you acknowledge reality, you own it, you take a position on it, and you find solutions rather than waiting and see what happens. And you implement solutions. So you're a doer, and 99% of you who are watching this are doers. You're reselling, you're doing something, you're active, you don't wait around for things to happen, you're doing them yourself. So keep that in mind, but I think you can still learn a lot from this ladder. There's so many different variations to discuss it, but I'm trying to keep it really simple. For the most part, this is someone who's realistic, who is comfortable with themselves and is able to self-assess and realize I made a mistake and I'm going to move forward. The individual that lives in this space is unable to realize they had any contribution to the situation. They don't think they're at fault. It's everyone else and everything else but them. And that's what we call victims. And that's where I got victimitis. There's some people I come across, they're just perpetual victims of their environment, and they're not ones that will take a position, own it, and move forward with something, right? So I'll show you a few other visuals of that. I just found it this morning by Googling it. So the higher up the ladder you are, you make it happen, you find solutions, you own it, and you acknowledge reality. And then once below, you wait and hope, you make excuses, you blame others, yada, yada, yada. That's more colorful and prettier. Let me see what else. That one is slightly different. Victim behaviors, things happen to you. Accountable behaviors, things happen because of you. Then there's some variations of the same concept, and they call this one emotional ladder. But in reality, it's all the same thing. You're going to, if you Google this, you're going to see different names, different colors, different applied to so many different spectrums in behavioral science, but it's all the same. It's the below the line and above the line. You're either there or you're there. You're a mover and the shaker, or you're a victim, right? So the emotional ladder here points out the individuals high above. Up the ladder, they're happy, they're optimistic, and they're in a good place. And then as you start going down, you find people that are resistant to that happiness. They become pessimistic and they're bored. They're impatient and overwhelmed, worried, disappointed, doubt, blame, anger, control, self, blah, 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 blah. And when you go down, further down, that's where the ugliness sits. And so through my career in leadership, I've utilized this ladder, this conversation in so many ways. And it's really interesting because whenever I was presented with a problem, there's always something to do with accountability. It's either the accountability of the individual having the problem or accountability with the individual of whom this person is struggling with. There's accountability or lack of is at the root of so much in our lives. It's insane. So anyway, so keep this in mind while I bring this concept up. Once again, probably seen it, you know it. However, this is a good reminder, and I need to remind myself of this so often. I have this formula written around everywhere, in my notebooks, on stickies, on anything you can think of. I need to be reminded of this, and I believe everyone else should as well. We encounter events all the time. Hold on, because I got to get into my preachy, bigger screen size mode. Hold on. We have events we encounter all the time. And as resellers, that could be eBay fees. Poshmark could have a big change. So any type of thing that could happen, any event in reselling, think of something like, think in your mind of an event from your past. Then think of your response. How did you react to it? Just think about it. Was your response high on the ladder or low on the ladder? Because that response determines your outcome. If there's an event and your response is below the ladder, your outcome and what you feel, what you do during the day will be low on the ladder. You will not be effective. You will waste time worrying and blaming others and making excuses why it's not going to work for you. If your response is high on the ladder and you're accountable and you're a doer and you're someone who's proactive, you will respond favorably to that event. And you will move on. You will acknowledge reality. It's not like you're going to ignore that this shitstorm just hit. You are, in fact, going to acknowledge that reality, but then you're going to move forward. You're not going to dwell and waste time and blame others. So your outcome will be positive. So that's why it's so interesting, you know, to watch people and see such different responses. But because I'm cursed. I'm wired to see this ladder in my mind all the time, and anytime someone responds to something, I automatically place them on that ladder. I'm all, oh, they're that kind of person. And I know that's bad. And I know that's bad, but I can't help it. This ladder is engraved in my brain. So I have to work hard not to make those judgments. Oh my God, you have no idea. But just think about that. Any recent events and where you placed on that ladder and what that outcome was. Now, I'm sure I'm going to get comments saying, well, that did not work for me in that situation. There's going to be anomalies. Hello. There are going to be anomalies, but for the most part, we know this is true. We know this is true. So just do some self-reflection and just understand that when I'm going to be talking about the time management concepts here in a few, it all kind of comes from that. That has to be understood before the concept I cover really will make sense to you. So let's maybe take a few other examples. Let's take an event. Someone cuts you off at the traffic light. You're speeding up and they cut you off. You can respond below the ladder, and you can, you know, pay him back, and you can get aggravated, and you can get angry, and you can start driving drastically. You can go cut him off. But what will your outcome be? Is your outcome going to be positive? Probably not. Now, in that same event, if you just let it go and acknowledge reality, meaning just understand they're either a prick or they're in a hurry to get somewhere, maybe their baby's in the car and you have to go to the hospital, whatever the case is, if you choose not to let that affect you, your outcome will be positive. So with all of that said, let's get going onto time management. How to manage your time, numero uno. First and foremost, you need to have your goals clearly written out and thought out. There's nothing worse than doing a bunch of activities without having a goal and an understanding of where you're headed, right? Before you get on the road to go somewhere, you have to know what the destination is. Very similar, you know, in anything you do, you have to know what that final outcome is. And there's so many people that don't really have a goal, and then they just get lost in this fury of daily tasks and busy work, and they feel like they're not moving anywhere, they're not headed anywhere. It's because they don't know where to go. And just because they're busy, because you're doing a lot, you can get yourself stressed out, and it's highly inefficient. It's such a time waster not to really understand what your destination is. So first and foremost, I know this is elementary, but set some goals. Now, I know that some people out there don't really know what their goals are, and they will form them. That's okay. Tell yourself, currently, I am going to get lost in the right direction, and I'm going to feel accomplished if I get some ideas towards where I want to go. But you have to kind of be realistic with yourself. Otherwise, you'll continue to spiral out of control and not have a goal. So first and foremost, know your goals. And then all of your tasks, and we'll talk about that later, should revolve around hitting those goals. And if there are certain activities that come at you throughout the day that have nothing to do with that goal, guess what? We're going to kick them to the curb, and I'll be talking about that later as well. Always have your goals in front of you, whether it's a sticky note on your calendar, whether it's a little poster you make, and put it in your bathroom, whatever it is, know your goals. Another part of having your goals written, there's that other dimension of prioritizing them, which sometimes we fail to do. That power of focus is huge. The power of attraction, of knowing where you're headed. So all your activities revolve around getting to that place. It's huge. Huge, huge, huge. So do it. Number 2, plan ahead. Plan ahead. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are very anti having to-do lists. That's fine. You don't have to write it out in pretty pink, shiny color with stickers around it in your, happy planner. But you have to, in your mind, create some type of a tactical strategy for the day. Otherwise, you're going to waste so much time trying to get things done without having a plan. And at the end, you're going to be like, wow, I didn't do all the things I needed to because you didn't have a plan. So that's one of the worst things you can do in terms of wasting time, is to jump into your day without having a plan of attack, some kind of a priority on what needs to get done, whether it's a mental list, written list, whatever works for you. Now, I find people, there's generally 2 types of people. The ones that do a mental list the night before, and then there's those that do it the morning of. Now, I also recommend when you are creating that plan for the day, your plan of attack, your strategy, your tactical, whatever you want to call it, to-do list, prioritize and highlight the top 3 and tell yourself, if I accomplish these 3 things out of 20, whatever the case is, I am going to feel accomplished. You have to do stuff like that. Otherwise, you're going to be the type that has that perpetual to-do list that just keeps rolling over and over, and you're just going to get depressed and stressed out and have further anxiety about it all. You have to find ways to feel a sense of accomplishment. And I know there's a lot of things to do in the day, but you have to be a realist. You can only do so much. I recommend to make that list of 3, and perhaps that's 5 for you, whatever it is. It's that list that's truly mandatory. So prioritize the things that must get done by the end of the day, the things that are perhaps something that you need to do by the end of the week, and so they can be fluid and move from one day to the next. But have that sense of a discipline, that sense of a cadence on a weekly basis to have those things rolling or must get done by the end of the day. Now, how to manage time and be more effective, number 3. Time box activities, or peg time limits to activities. As you think about your plan for the day, have some sense of how long you're willing to spend on any one item. If you don't do that, you're going to fall behind, you're going to spend too much time on one thing, blah, blah, blah. You know how that ends. So I highly recommend making appointments with your day. Like think of anyone in a business world or like a hairdresser. She has appointments every certain hour on the hour, whatever. In a business world, people live by their calendars and their Blackberries, whatever. You as a reseller can do that too. You can set appointment times with yourself. So rather than having like a daily calendar, whatever, where you put things down, just use one of the calendars and set appointments for specific things. To give you an example, I have a whiteboard and I have my game plan. This is unique to reselling. I have something similar for my day job, but I did this just for the purpose of this video. And I write out kind of my plan for the week. So on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, Saturday, Sunday. And I'm not going to read through all of it, but I'll tell you as an example. I'm in a lot of Facebook groups. And Facebook is a huge time suck, right? So rather than being a slave to Facebook, I take control of that. I take control of that shit. I have 1 hour blocked each Tuesday. Might not always happen, but I have time allocated for Facebook to go in and post in my Facebook groups, post links to my video on YouTube, answer questions in whatever forum there are questions in, and just be engaged for 1 hour once a week. And some people are like, oh my God, how do you find time to be active on Facebook and blah? I just found a 1 hour time that I'm going to dedicate to that. That's it. I'm not going to allow myself to get sucked into Facebook and doing stuff when I know once a week I have that time. And you know, there's something comfortable knowing, oh, I'll check on that when I have my Facebook appointment. Or I'll look into that when I have my Facebook appointment. And it allows me to focus on what I'm doing right now versus running towards and checking something on Facebook. I know I have time allocated for that. Does that make sense? So that's what time boxing and pegging time really means, is setting limits for yourself. How that can be applied to reselling. Tell yourself for 4 hours in the morning, uninterrupted, you will list. But I can't because so-and-so and so-and-so. No, you can tell so-and-so at noon is their time, but between 8 and noon is your time. But it doesn't work like that in the real world. No, it does. It really does. You have to be in control. Otherwise, you are giving others control of you. But my kids so-and-so and so-and-so. Okay, well then build in a half an hour during that 4 hour chunk where you are going to spend time with your kids and you're going to check in on them and do something, whatever it is. But have a plan of attack. Structure it so it works for you. Don't set realistic, oh, but so-and-so reseller does an 8 hour listing marathon and I can't do it and I'm stressed out. Don't be unrealistic. Do what works for you and don't copy anyone else. Make realistic goals for yourself that fit your lifestyle. And that's very important. And then just attaching tasks that are similar in nature. So for example, shipping. Shipping is a big one that I think a lot of resellers do very efficiently. They have their time either in the evenings or in the morning and they group it all together, do it all at once. And so I think that's very important to do that because otherwise you're going to be pulled in different directions and waste time. But if you have that comfort knowing, oh, a few times a week, this is what I do on that day during that time. It's a lot more like deliberate, in control, in command, and you don't have to stress out, when am I going to do that? Oh my God, well, you have time on your calendar to do that, so that's when you'll do it. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Now, I'm being a little preachy, but just please remember, this doesn't just happen overnight. This took me years to work on for myself and years to work with other people who needed that type of system. So it won't happen overnight, but I'm hoping few nuggets you can take away that will improve your time management. It will go a long way. How to manage time and be an effective reseller. Number 4, don't be a perfectionist. I know all the type A perfectionists out there are going, what? What did she just say? That doesn't make sense. Don't be a perfectionist. There is no room for being a perfectionist in entrepreneurship, in reselling. That will kill your productivity. And I'm sorry to say that, but you have to set rational goals, and irrational goals are going to set you back significantly. Being a perfectionist is a time waster, a complete time waster. And worrying about flaws in your own work is bad. And I've battled that. I'm still probably battling it in some ways, but I've battled that for a really long time. And I had a accountability coach one time, and he would try to knock it out of me and like, okay, does it matter that this has a bow on it, or is it going to go through just as is? Well, it's going to go through just as is, but I want to, oh, you want to put a bow on it. So you don't need to, but you want to. And why do you want to? Because you care about what people think about you, huh? Yeah. That's how the conversations go. So if you want to have me make a video about how to overcome your perfectionism, I can do that as well. But there's no room for that right now in this video, but it's a very fun conversation. How to manage time and be an effective reseller. Number 5. This one is called Just Say No. Just say no. One way of really self-sabotaging your productivity and just feeling busy all the time is not setting personal boundaries. And you know what I'm talking about. There are so many things that pull on us in all directions, and if you're a people pleaser, chances are you have a hard time getting stuff done for yourself, right? We all know those. We might be one of them. But establishing those boundaries and being able to say and feeling comfortable saying no to someone and knowing how to say no to someone without hurting their feelings is a really big thing for some people. And I could probably do a video on that too, how to say no without hurting the other person or continue to have them ask again in the future. But it's very important. It's such a big productivity killer, such a time waster to just suddenly respond to other people's needs. Now, if it's on your list, if it's on your goal list, for example, let's say your goals are family, health, reselling, work, travel, friendships, PTA, board of directors. I was just jotting down some of my goals, priorities, whatever, and not in any order. Now, let's say, hold on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's say you have 8 things competing for your time, but you really have 5 that are your true goals that you set at the beginning of the year. So, family, reselling, work, board of directors, and PTA. So let's say those are your big ones. And somehow, somewhere, this stuff sneaks in, a friendship, and your friends are doing an outing and you simply do not have the time, and you did not account that that's going to be a goal in your life this year to strengthen your friendships. You have to learn how to recognize that and say no and be okay with it. You have to. Otherwise, it's going to eat at you. You're going to make decisions that are counter to you meeting your goals, and then you're going to be stressed out, and you're going to wonder, how am I going to get this done, blah, blah, blah. It's that type of a mindset you have to come into in order to manage your time efficiently. I know it sounds really like surgical, but it's necessary in order for you to be effective. It really, really is. How to effectively manage time for resellers, number 6. This is a big one. Launch an attack on your dysfunctional habits. Yes, that could be an episode all on its own. But you have to eliminate your distractions. So we touched upon that when we talked about managing time, learning how to say no. But this is a category all on its own. You have to eliminate distractions, and you know what they are. I want you to sit down, write out all of the distractions that you have throughout the day. Then think about how you can block them out or schedule time for them separately. Social media is a big one. You could be a slave to your phone and respond to anything and everything, or you can turn off the sound on your phone and go and take 100 pictures. You can do it. You just need to learn and program yourself to be okay with it, not to be on, not to be, first one in on any conversation, any topic, any response. But my eBay and this and no. Now, you can and you should. You can and you should. But blocking out distractions and eliminating time wasters is a big one. And you owe it to yourself to kind of do that self-assessment every month. If you can't do it every month, do it at least every quarter. But every month, give yourself like half an hour a month. Put it on your calendar, schedule a day with yourself, half an hour where you just mentally go through all of the distractions that you've been encountering and what can you do with them. What is a good plan to kick them to the curb, or if they're positive and they are in fact something that you need to be doing, allocating a time for them so they are incorporated and introduced into your daily grind. And that's really, really important. Whether it's family, whether it's social media, work, and majority of them are just self-induced. Let's be honest. We can blame our family, we can blame social media. Majority of them are self-induced because we're not focused, because we are either not motivated, because there are many because. And separate your disruptions by self-induced, what gets you defocused, and the ones that are external. So internal and external interruptions, and have a plan for them. Just have a plan for them. And once again, if you struggle in this area, find a accountability partner. Find a coach. There's so many coaches out there. Find a book. Find something. It will help you guide you through it. Okay? Next. How to effectively manage your time as a reseller. What are we on? Number 7. Focus. There is nothing worse that's going to waste your time is when you can't focus. And that's different than what we talked about with distractions, and obviously that's a factor. It's a vehicle of getting you off track. It's those little things. But when you have everything in order, let's say you have a distraction-free environment, and you have everything planned out, and you're doing something, yet you are still not able to focus. That's what I wanted to talk about. You can have everything laid out perfectly. You could be in a room with no noises, no sounds. You have time, your family knows everything is perfect. You have the exact setup, but you can't focus. You need to explore that. Don't just procrastinate and put it to the side. I want you to explore why you're not able to focus. Is there something going on in your mind that's making you feel just like, I don't know, like apathy or indifference about what you're doing, boredom, disinterest, not seeing that there's actual value in what you're doing? There's always something that's taking your mind away from what you need to be doing, all things being equal. And I don't think we kind of spend enough time exploring that in ourselves, like what is not motivating us to stay focused? What is pulling us away? Maybe the motivation to resell on Poshmark is no longer there. That's why you can't focus. It could happen. It happens. Why? What's triggering it? Why aren't you focusing on that? What's causing it? So focus is a really interesting topic. There are so many different things going on in our mind all the time. So much stuff just percolating and just hovering around and preventing us from having that focus and bouncing things out. I want you to think about that and explore that and what's in your mind that's causing you not to want to commit to this mentally. What are you allowing your time to be spent on? What your thoughts, what are they being spent on rather than doing reselling? If you need help with that one, tell me. The last one isn't really a time saver or anything that will make you more efficient. It really is something about keeping your motivation going to do this, and that is reward yourself. You have to reward yourself, and I think what happens when we don't have goals and meet them and we don't reward ourselves, over time things happen to us that prevent us from being effective and efficient. There has to be a reward system for a job well done, a pat on the back. If you do 100 listings and you cross-post them and you meet your goals, reward yourself, do something. Otherwise, you might get into a ugly place of being burned out. Let's say, for example, this is really healthy. After a week of doing, let's say, 50 listings a day, after a week, you're going to tell yourself you're going to take 2 days off and do nothing on any platform. Have that reward system. Otherwise, you are going to die. Seriously. Seriously, you're going to burn out. And there's nothing more destructive and to your progress, to your efficiency, to your work and growth than burnout. Burnout is really, it's a killer. There's studies done that. There's one that was done by McKinsey on the cost of burnout to employers and the lack of engagement because of burnout. So introduce some type of a reward system for yourself, whether it's an extra day shopping or a day laying in bed watching TV. It will pay forward. It will save you time in the future, because there's nothing worse than disengagement. Nothing. My old company, we actually had these engagement surveys, and we studied engagement in our employees, and the higher engaged the individual, obviously the better, more productivity and all of that. And so we would introduce reward systems, and it's different for everybody. Everybody values different things, wants different things, and is motivated by different things. So look inside yourself and see, what are you rewarded by? What motivates you? And introduce a reward system for yourself. Please, you don't understand. It will be bad if you get burned out. So that's an important one. So that's your list of 8. And then overall, and I'll go through them once again, but overall, in my mind, what I work on right now to be more effective is eliminating the 4. And the 4 are perfectionism, guilt, worry, and resentment. Those are so important to try to work out of your system. And I see, in comments and people's discussions and live chats, those four just feed off of us as resellers. The perfectionism, the guilt that we're spending too much time doing reselling over our family, the worry that this will happen or it might not happen. People worry about the future, worry about the past. Be in the present. And then resentment. I sense the resentment, and that's what happens when we make unaccountable choices. We do not plan, we do not manage our time correctly. We become resentful, and we worry, and we have guilt, and that's not healthy. What are you going to do with this information? Are you rolling your eyes and going, oh yeah, easier said than done? Are you going, whatever, Anna, get off your soapbox? Who the hell are you to be saying stuff like that? What are you doing with this information? I really want to know, because I hope it's giving you food for thought, because I want you to know you can be the best version of yourself if you start making some changes, and you can be happier, more productive, have more time for your family and kids, have more time to be the best version of you if you employ some of these things. So I'm looking at you. I know you can do it. I've helped hundreds of people to do that. I'm helping people to do that, and I know you can do it too. Do it.